when the Lamb opened the seventh seal, silence covered the sky.
Let's touch on Yegita Erat. Erat, right? The supper, Gita Erat, that's often called the Last Supper, since this is the meaning of the season. This is the reason for the season, as they would say. Now, according to the Christian faith, the faith of Christ, according to the Pt1, the true Orthodox faith, according to the Ethiopic Church, the Tawahido Pt1, the Ritua Hymenot, the Rit Amin, the Last Supper, what's called in the West the Last Supper, and what's known to the Ethiopic Church as Yegita Erat, or the ADONAI's Supper, the ADONAI Supper, is the final meal or Passover meal that Jesus Christos, Yehoshua HaMashiach, shared with his 12 apostles, the 12 disciples, which later on would become apostles, will be graduated by virtue of the Great Commission to be Hawaria, from Mezamorit to Hawariat in Jerusalem. Now, this is before his crucifixion. Yegita Erat, the Master's meal, the Last Supper, it provides the scriptural, the biblical, the Metaf Kedusawi basis, the Meseret, the foundation for the ceremony that's often called and is known as the Eucharist. It's also called communion, and it's also known as the Lord's Supper. Now, in Hawadia Paulos, the Apostle Paul's first epistle to the Corinthians, is the earliest known mention of what we know as the Last Supper. It is later described in more detail in what's called the Synoptic Gospels and in the Gospel of John. Now, it is said that the Gospel of John omits the institution of the Eucharistic use of the bread and the wine. Now, according to Hawadia Paulos, when we turn our Bibles to 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 23 to 26, at that meal, Yeshua, Jesus, on the night he was betrayed or, quote, delivered up, he gave his disciples bread, saying that it was his body, saying that this is Misaliyawi Negager, according to metaphorical language, it was his body, which was broken for them. And he gave them wine, saying that it was the new covenant, the Hadis or Hadis Kidan, in his blood, Bedemu, and told them to do it in his memory as a metasebia. In the Synoptic Gospels, Yeshua, Jesus, institutes a new covenant of his blood and body, or what's often called the Segawadem, the bread and the wine, or the wine and the bread at the Fasika Seder, at the Fasika Sarat, at the Fasika Erat, the Fasika Passover meal. Now, the Gospel of Johannes Wengel, it recounts, instead of the institution of this new covenant with wine and bread, it recounts Jesus' washing of the disciples' feet. And it also depicts Jesus as speaking at length in his farewell discourse, his farewell address or his discourse. Now, in Kedus Johannes's Wengel, Yegitarat, the Master's meal, ADONAI's supper, the Last Supper as it's called, it takes place on the night before Fasika, the night before Pesach, Passover, the night before the Fasika Passover lambs were slaughtered. Now, many scholars, Bible scholars and others, have looked to the Last Supper as the source of the early Christian Eucharist and Eucharistic traditions. Others, on the other hand, they see the account of the Last Supper as derived from the first century Eucharistic practice as described by Howaria Paulos in what is known as the mid-50s. In other words, the mid-50s, some say roughly between 10 to 20 years after the crucifixion, the death, and the resurrection of Getachin Jesus Christos.